All right, football fans, thanks for joining me again for another version of the top three teams of the week in the New Mexico Young American Football League. I am super excited to be here. Great time of year for football. 2 weeks away from the playoffs, and really this is what you've been kind of fighting for the entire year since you started in the hot summer sun of July in OTAs, and then finally through your camp, and then finally through your scrimmage, and then obviously through the regular season. 2 weeks left, and it's just really starting to shake out to be darn interesting. I'm telling you that right now. We're going to start off with the Mighty Mites, the little guys, the 7-year-olds, and this is such an entertaining group, I will tell you. Really, you think about last week, and there were some really critical matchups. I mean, you had La Cueva going against Sioux Cleveland. You had West Mesa going against Volcano Vista. Really, the top four teams in that conference kind of going head-to-head, and it was nothing short of being fantastic. So let's see where we rank this week. And I'll tell you, if you're thinking about this level, you can't help but think about La Cueva right now. This team is absolutely getting hot at the right time. 4 straight wins under Coach Olivas, and last week's win over Sioux Cleveland was a nail-biter to the very end. Coach Birch and his Sioux Cleveland Storm really at the number 1 ranking pretty much all year, hadn't lost all year, and finally tasted a little bit of defeat at the hands of La Cueva in what was a very close game, 33-25. And you think about those 4 straight wins and how La Cueva's playing right now. Right now, you got to wonder if they can be stopped. The last 2 games of the year at Trisco Heritage and Belen, you look at it, they should be able to finish off with the 6 straight wins and 6-2. Then you think about Sioux Cleveland at 5-1 and a just absolutely critical matchup this weekend with Volcano Vista and Coach Gonzalez. Hey, and I'm not saying count Coach Gonzalez and that Volcano Vista team out. No, by no means. They had a tough loss, 20-6 loss to West Mesa on Saturday, and West Mesa was able to avenge an earlier loss in Week 1, 31-19 loss, when Volcano Vista got the best of them that day. But last Saturday, here comes West Mesa, and they're my 3rd-ranked team. Coach Aguilar, where has this team really been all year? They've been competing, but kind of flying under the radar, and all of a sudden now they are the team to kind of be watching out for. Hot. And you think about the playoffs. The brackets are kind of released. The 1 and 2 seeds get a bye. And when you're looking at that, you can pretty much kind of throw La Cueva in because of the last 2 games, and they should be able to get through those 2 games and grab that 1 slot. But everything else is up for grabs, and really a critical matchup this weekend with Sioux Cleveland 2-1 in conference play against Volcano Vista 1-2 in conference play. This could go any number of directions. And then finally, the last game of the year, West Mesa and Sioux Cleveland. I mean, could you ask for any better finish to this level? The number 2 seed is literally up for grabs. The key part about that, the number 1 and 2 seeds get byes, and 1 victory, and you're in the Super Bowl. That's how critical those 1 and 2 seeds really become. So we're going to see how it all shakes out. But for this week, at the Mighty Mite level, a little shake-up at the top. La Cueva number 1, Sioux Cleveland slides down to number 2, and West Mesa, for the first time all year, enters into the top 3 at the number 3 slot. Volcano Vista, I know you're sitting there waiting for your turn again. Don't worry. Those are the top 3 teams we have, the Mighty Mite division this week. All right, football fans, we move on to the Peewee division, the 8-year-olds. And I tell you what, there's some exciting teams in that level and some very interesting kind of thought processes as you look toward the playoffs. But you can't think about this division without thinking about one team in particular, and that is the Volcano Vista Hawks at 6-0. Game of the week last week. They ended up going in and having a really great day against Albuquerque High, 47-6 victory. And you think about that team, and I'm going to tell you what, you better be thinking about 2 things. And we're going to show you right now what you should be thinking about. You should be thinking about snacks and smash, because that's exactly what kind of show you're going to see if you go up against this team, the Snacks and Smash show. You know what I'm talking about. Smash Gonzalez, the 1-2 punch. 23-5 for the Volcano Vista Hawks, and I tell you, you just cannot escape those 2 guys on both sides of the ball. Then you sprinkle in a little Sandoval at Q at corner, and then you also toss in Lopez catching footballs in the end zone, and you got yourselves the making of a pretty dynamic football team. Did I mention the behemoths they call the offensive line and defensive line, which set up all the play on both sides of the ball. Yeah, that massive offensive and defensive front. I am just utterly impressed with Coach Gonzalez and what he's done with this Volcano Vista team. And you got to be impressed with what they can do. But you can't go through this division unless you finish Rio Grande. That team last year, defending Super Bowl champs, ranked number 2 again in the ranking. And Coach Sophomore, I tell you, with the 26-18 win over Sandia, 3 straight wins since they lost to Volcano Vista, and just really on a roll right now, getting hot at the right time. You can't forget about this team. This is a championship level team, and they're going to be around. They're not going anywhere. And then finally, we had Albuquerque High as our 3 slot. They've slid out a little bit, but Coach Salgado, with 2 straight wins and just a really dominating win last week over Las Lunas 26-12. The Highland Hornets under Coach Salgado back into the ranking. One of the few Highland teams we have in the league this year, and just an impressive run right now with a 5-1 record going into the weekend. And they're going to get their chance. They got 2 really extremely difficult games as they go against Albuquerque High this weekend, and then finally wrap up the season against Rio Grande. And, really you're looking at this bracket, and, Volcano Vista's got the number 1 slot wrapped up, no doubt about it. But if you're in the bracket and in for the hunt, the 2 and 3 slot are kind of up for grabs right now. And Albuquerque High still has a chance. Coach Martinez, probably a little irritated, probably got a chip on his shoulder, but he gets a chance to get that off of his shoulder when he plays Highland. This is going to be an exciting finish to the season in this level. But I tell you what, Volcano Vista is the team to beat, no doubt about it. But here's the top 3 in the Peewee division this week. Number 1, Volcano Vista. Number 2, Rio Grande. And number 3, the Highland Hornets coming in. There's your top 3 in the Peewee level. All right, football fans, welcome back. Moving on to one of the most complex divisions we have out there right now. Just a lot of things can happen in the rookie level right now. So you've got a rookie north and a rookie south. Clearly, the majority of the talent lies in the rookie north. And when you think about kind of where teams are falling, you can't go without mentioning La Cueva. Coach Sanchez, 6-0. You know the story. 1 loss in 3 years. Again, rolling through 2 Super Bowl victories. A team to be reckoned with no matter who they step on with. And I think when you think about him, you think about last week's victory. This is the kind of team that they are. They were really in those 1-2 score matchups where they were just in these tight games with teams that on paper you would think that they'd be able to dominate. But the thing is, when you're at the top of the mountain, you are everyone's best game, and they're going to bring it. And you have to get used to that feeling of not necessarily always winning by a bunch. But they played Volcano Vista, and I tell you, Coach Cornelius' team is just fantastic. They're a great football team, and they ended up going down 20-0. And I really don't think that's indicative of what that team really is. But on that day, they were definitely not up to the task of La Cueva. So when you think about the rankings, I know a lot of fans are going to look at this and say, Mark, have you lost your mind? And I would say that the rookie division is making me spin right now. And I'm gonna tell you a couple things you need to think about when you walk through these rankings. I haven't given Del Norte any love all year. Why? As I've stated, they're the new kid on the block. They had some things they needed to prove for me to feel like that's a team that can be reckoned with and in that top group. And right now, I still feel like they're not a proven commodity, but they are now in position to figure out right away what they really are. They came off the spring league and won the spring league. Now here they are in the fall, deep into the regular season, and they match up with La Cueva. This weekend is absolutely a critical game for both La Cueva and Del Norte, to be honest with you, because really the number 1 seed is still up for grabs. When you think about these 2 teams, you got to think about a championship quality type game that's going to happen here on Saturday, 8 o'clock at Bullhead, Field 4. Number 3, Valley. Coach Dow, and what you got to understand, in the South Division, there is no other team that is clearly the best other than Valley. And that's not to say anything against Los Lunas, Rio Grande, or Trisco, who are all in the hunt for the playoffs, for the 2, 3, and 4 slots. But clearly Valley is going to come in as the number 1 seed in the South, and you can't ignore that. Super Bowl runner-up, definitely a championship quality team, had a really kind of an altering type of game against La Cueva where they lost 10-6 and really haven't been behind the sticks since then. They've been a fantastic team. They've won 2 straight games, 36-0 against Atrisco 2 weeks ago, 40-13 against El Dorado. Valley is streaking at the right time. But back to when you think about why Volcano Vista is not in that 2 slot or in the top 3, they're really a top 3 team, okay? But I only have 3 slots to play with. And I'm going to tell you why. When you think about the playoffs, you have to think about a couple of things. One, it's conference record first. That is the ultimate determining factor on where you go in for the seeding. The second one is head-to-head. The third one is your overall record. And I think people get all that twisted backwards. Overall doesn't mean jack right now. What matters right now is how you're playing in conference. When you look at it on paper, Del Norte 1-1 in conference, Volcano 2-1 in conference, and Sioux Cleveland 1-1 in conference. Why do I mention Sioux Cleveland? Because Sioux Cleveland literally could come from what now kind of appears to be a 4 seed all the way up to a 2 seed. How's that going to happen? Well, guess what? They finished with Volcano Vista and they finished with Del Norte. They win those 2 games and they finish essentially 3-1 in conference. They now become the 2 seed. This is what I'm trying to tell you, that these teams at the top, while I feel like right now these are probably the top teams kind of playing really well, and you don't really want to lose late in the season. This is kind of where you need to be on a streak. And I'm not counting out Volcano Vista and Coach Cornelius, but I will tell you those 4 teams right there are going to be the teams to beat when you all boil it down. And I ran my sample bracket, kind of running through it, and I still haven't figured out who's going to win this darn thing. But I will tell you that for this week, and given everything at stake right now, Coach Patterson and Del Norte, 2 back-to-back shutouts, and La Cueva on the agenda this weekend sets up to be just a fantastic, determinating game for that number 1 seed. And I'm just looking forward to see who comes out of that victory. And, of course, Coach Cornelius, I know you're out there. I know your team's out there. And I know what kind of team you really are. You're the only team that beat Del Norte this year so far. But I think right now, given the level of play, these are my top 3 this week. The La Cueva Bears, Coach Sanchez at the number 1 slot, Del Norte and Coach Patterson in the 2 slot, and in the 3 slot, holding still, Valley, Coach Dow. That's this week's top 3 rankings at the rookie level. All right, football fans. Welcome back. I think if you watched last week, I had a little beef with the freshman division. That's who we're on now. Trying to figure out exactly who they are. And I think we've finally seen some light. A little crack through the shadows, if you will, into the freshman division leaders. And you can't talk about the freshman division, first of all, without talking about Sioux Cleveland and Coach Dennison. Defending Super Bowl champs, have said it week in and week out, they are the team to beat until they get beat. And I tell you what, you think about the Sioux Cleveland Storm under Coach Dennison, and you're the opposing coach, holy smokes. Talk about a scary proposition. Imagine having the game plan for this team. Why am I wearing the scary mask? Let me tell you why. You go up against Sioux Cleveland, you're going up against a team that's, first of all, 6-0, haven't given up 1 touchdown all year. You can only imagine the nightmare you would have looking at film trying to figure out how to put the ball in the end zone against this team. Highly impressed with Dennison and what he's done with this team. 25-0 victory in their last game. And again, just no scores all year. I mean, what are you going to do with that? That is an extremely difficult challenge in front of you. In the 2 slot, Coach Caesar, Volcano Vista, defending regional champions, qualified for the Nationals, 4 straight wins, 40-6 victory over La Cueva. Yeah, they got Sioux Cleveland next. And I think when you think about that 12 o'clock at Bullhead, that matchup right there is going to dictate a lot about who is going to come in as the top type seed in this particular division. And then finally sitting in that third slot, so Cleveland East, who has just quietly put together a pretty impressive run. 3 straight victories, a 24-22 squeak-out win against Super Bowl runner-up Sandia, Coach Maldonado. And this is an interesting setup. I tell you, when you kind of look at this thing, let's not forget about 4 other teams, okay? Rio Grande, Coach Gallegos. Sandia, Coach Maldonado. Coach Cordova and Valencia, and of course, Coach Casals and Atrisco. Why do I bring those teams up? Let's talk about a couple of things. First of all, the only way to win a Super Bowl is to get into the playoffs, okay? And at this division, some teams aren't going to make it in. So let's talk about the teams that are on their way in or out right now this weekend. First game, Albuquerque and Los Lunas, lining up for that 4 seed. Yeah, it doesn't set up to be really great. You're going to end up playing a 1 seed. Don't worry about it, because I've seen 1 seeds taken out in the first round a few different times. But Albuquerque High absolutely has to win. Coach Blair and his squad, if they lose, they're out. It's that simple. This weekend is a playoff game already. I know it's still 3 weeks away, but this week is a playoff game for Albuquerque High. They lose, they're out. Los Lunas wins, they're in. It's that simple. Love that matchup. I think that's an intriguing game. Here's the second thing you need to think about. Right now, you think about this Volcano Vista and Sioux Cleveland matchup. It's dynamic. It's fantastic. It's definitely candidate for Game of the Week. But let's set this up for a second on the other side. Sioux Cleveland East and Rio Grande. Rio Grande has Atrisco this weekend. Coach Casals. That's going to be a matchup. Rio Grande manages to win that one, and Sioux Cleveland East plays Cibola. They manage to get past those 2 teams. Those 2 teams hook horns in Week 8. Winner takes all. That's how important them winning this weekend is. They win this weekend, Rio Grande, Sioux Cleveland, for the number 1 seed on the other side of the bracket, and just a fantastic way to end this season as these freshmen just continue to keep me awake at night. Another impressive way to get in or out. You got to be in to play, right? You got to be in to win. Coach Wiley, Volcano Vista East, the most unlikely of teams, with a 20-0 victory last week against Atrisco. What does that mean? Well, guess what? They've got Sandia and Cibola on the agenda. They win one of those 2, they're in. If Atrisco cannot win at least one of their, in fact, Atrisco has to win out. Rio Grande this weekend, that's going to be a challenge. They wrap up with Sandia. That's going to be a challenge. The tougher path to that 4 seed right now lines at Atrisco's path. Volcano Vista East has Sandia and Cibola. They win one of those 2 games, they're in. It's that simple. Forget about the overall record. They're 2-4. Doesn't matter. They win one of those last 2, they're in. That's how important these last few games of the season are. And those aren't the matchups that we're talking about with the top 3, but they're intriguing in that it gives them an opportunity to win the coveted Super Bowl prize. So as you're kind of walking through this thing, number 1, Coach Dennison and Sioux Cleveland. Number 2, Coach Caesar and Volcano Vista. And number 3, Sioux Cleveland East and Coach Birch really are the class of the league. Look for that Sioux Cleveland Volcano matchup. It's going to mean a lot this weekend. And finally, Week 8, Rio Grande and Sioux Cleveland East hooking horns for that top slot on the other side of the bracket. Those are your rankings for the freshmen this week. All right, football fans. New Mexico Young American Football League, the best teams in the state, in my opinion. And we move on to the sophomore level, a couple years away from high school. And the class of the league has really lied in the hands of 3 teams. It's been this way pretty much all year. You can guarantee one of these 3 are going to walk away holding up the championship and put it on their mantle. And you start off by thinking about La Cueva. How can you not? They're 6-0, 36-6 victory over Atrisco in their last game. They line up to go 8-0. Okay, they play Rio Rancho, Rio Grande in week 7 and 8. Coach Kimbrough has just this team playing at such an extremely high level. Impressive team. Big on both sides of the ball, athletes on both sides of the ball. Extremely difficult to game plan for the number 1 team from the beginning of the season to today. The number 2 ranked team, defending Super Bowl champions under Coach Montgomery, Volcano Vista East, Eastside. 4 straight wins since they lost to La Cueva, 2 straight shutouts, 28-0 over La Cueva, Los Lunas East, 36-0 over Rio Rancho. They have a game next week we need to talk about in just a second. And, of course, in that 3rd slot, Los Lunas, Coach Caldwell, the Tigers, The only ranked Los Lunas team in our ranking, 3 straight wins. Their last victory coming against West Mesa East, 22-14. Let's talk for a moment about next week, or this weekend, this Saturday. Volcano Vista East and Los Lunas. Holy smokes, we got a game. We got a game at the sophomore division. I am excited. Definitely another candidate for game of the week. And the reason I'm excited is that we've got a lot of different things happening here. Okay. Defending Super Bowl champs, Los Lunas has been in the mix for the last couple of years. Here's the dilemma. If you don't know much about youth football in Los Lunas, you need to know this. Los Lunas kids at the sophomore level is their last year in YAF, pretty much across the board. They move on their junior and varsity years, the 7th and 8th grade years, to their own middle school system, and then feed into the high schools from there. This really is their final year at YAF. This is their varsity year, if you will. Don't even for a second count out Coach Caldwell against the defending Super Bowl champion Volcano Vista East Hawks and Coach Montgomery, because this is going to be in a smaller version their Super Bowl. How does this all shake out? Okay, in the playoffs and where you seeded and all that good stuff, it really isn't going to have a lot of bearing, I'll be honest with you. La Cueva should walk into the 1 seed. There should not be an issue with that. The 2-3 seed is going to be either West Mesa or Volcano Vista East or Los Lunas. It's going to be 2 or 3. They're going to end up on the other side of the bracket. They're going to meet again in the semifinals, and one of those two are going to go in and play La Cueva in the Super Bowl. Unless one of the other teams in the sophomore division can prove me wrong with a good game this weekend, that's how it's all going to shake out. So at one way or the other, Volcano Vista East and Lunas are going to hook it up again in the semifinals in a few weeks from now. So this game is kind of a setup for what's going to come later. But we're going to learn a lot about these two teams on Saturday when they set up to play. And I'm just excited for this to go down. But right now, this is your ranking. It's been your ranking. It's since week 1 to week 6. This is where we stand. La Cueva, Volcano Vista East side, and Los Lunas Tigers. Top 3 in the sophomore division. All right, football fans, we move on to the junior level, and I will tell you what, I was privileged to be a part of the game of the week last Friday night under the lights. Rio Rancho Rams, Sioux Cleveland Storm, Coach Manning, Coach Blake getting together on a Friday night, and the environment and the atmosphere was electric. The fans on both sides were fantastic. Really a well-played game. 16-13 victory for Rio Rancho at the end of the day. Sioux Cleveland had led for most of the game in the second half, and at the end of the game ended up kind of falling a little bit at the end there. And really, that game was not determined until literally, I kid you not, the final minute of the game. So just a hats off to those two coaches and those two teams and the way those kids played. Really got the juices flowing, wanted me to get back into coaching next year. But I'll tell you this. When you think about this division, we had a little shift here in the top 3. We've talked a lot about Rio Rancho and Sioux Cleveland, okay? We've burned a lot of holes into those two conversations, and I'm sure if you're a fan of this division, you are damn sick and tired of me leaving out one team. Coach Salas and the Volcano Vista Hawks. And your time has come, Coach. You guys are a team to be reckoned with. There's no doubt about it. Let's talk a little bit about Volcano Vista. 6-0, undefeated. They've had 1 touchdown scored against them all year. Yeah, I failed to mention that last week, and I will tell you, a little contingency of Volcano Vista Hawk fans watching the game of the week got in my ear and reminded me, hey, this team is being overlooked. You need to mention a couple things, and here I am, and they're right. Coach Salas has this team playing lights out. And at 6-0, their last victory, 36-0 over Valley. And I just tell you, this team is just fantastic. Here's the setup, though. They've got Sioux Cleveland and Rio Rancho on the agenda the next 2 weeks. You heard me right. Sioux Cleveland and Rio Rancho on the agenda. They wrap up the season with the most difficult finale in the league against 2 of the top teams. This will determine a heck of a lot about where we seed and what kind of team Volcano Vista is, what kind of team Rio Rancho is, what kind of team Sioux Cleveland is. But make no mistake, those are the 3 teams at the top of this level. Let's talk a little bit about some of the outsiders looking in. Cibola, Coach Lopez at 4-2. Volcano Vista North, Coach Mueller at 4-2. You can't count them out. Okay, there's going to be a mix of teams in here, and those are the 5. But really, if you want to win a Super Bowl in the junior level, you got to go through one of these 3 juggernauts to get there. Don't make no mistake about it. These are the 3 class teams of the league. So here we go. Volcano Vista, Sioux Cleveland, again, another candidate for game of the week. Fantastic matchup. And then finally in the finale, Volcano Vista and Rio Rancho. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better finish in the junior level. Some very competitive games on the horizon. I'm super excited to hopefully be part of one or both of those games. And so for week 6, these are your top 3. A little shake at 2-3, a little shake and bake. Number 1 remains unchanged, undefeated. Rio Rancho 6-0. Coach Manning. Number 2, Volcano Vista moves up a slot. Coach Salas has them prepared to finish the season 8-0. And finally, in the 3rd spot, Coach Blake and those Sioux Cleveland Storm, tough loss on Friday night, round out the top 3 in the junior level. All right, football fans, thanks for hanging around. We've made it to our final division, the varsity division, definitely near and dear to my heart. Next year, at this time, these guys will be playing freshman football, and the youth football experience will be a distant memory. But for now, they still have a couple memories to make, and you can't get through this division unless you go through one team, and one team only, and that is the dynamic team of West Mesa Mustangs. I just don't honestly see how any team right now can play at the level they're playing at. Certainly a state level, national level type team. Tons of talent on both sides of the ball. Overloaded any position, deep as they come, can plug and play about any player on that sideline and still be as competitive with their first string, second string, third string, eighth string. It doesn't matter. Put any kid on the field, that team's going to compete. Coach Montano, 36-0 victory over the Highland Hornets in their last game. They wrap up with El Dorado and Atrisco in the last 2 weeks. The number 2 team, La Cueva, been kind of sitting there basically the whole season. They started off 0-2, injuries, you know the story. 5 out of 6 championships. Coach Cherry got them playing pretty well right now. 48-12 victory over Albuquerque High last week. They wrap up with Volcano Vista East and Volcano Vista North. And then finally in the 3rd slot, the chip on your forever shoulder, Coach Perry, Rio Rancho East Rams. They've won 2 straight, 44-12 against Volcano Vista East 2 weeks ago, 39-14 against Volcano Vista. They wrap up with Rio Rancho East and Albuquerque High. And then finally, you look at kind of the outside, kind of looking in. Obviously, Coach Orozco Valley at 4-2, Sioux Cleveland, Coach Brody at 4-2, Atrisco, Coach Orono at 3-3, and Coach Olivas with El Dorado at 3-3. And then you also got to consider Volcano Vista North, Volcano Vista East. There's some players in the mix here, but at the end of the day, there's only going to be a few teams that make it in. So let's talk about some of that number 4 seed kind of sneaking in, and teams that are going to make it and teams that aren't going to make it. So on the north side, you can pretty much count Coach Cherry and the Volcano Vista in as the 1 seed coming on that side. You can pretty much count on the south side, West Mesa and Coach Montano, 1-1. It's up for grabs from there. On the north side, Volcano Vista North, Volcano Vista East. Those 3 teams will get in. I can't tell you where they're going to seed because they're all so close in conference play right now, and they all play each other in the end. It's going to be a mixed bag, but those 3 teams are pretty much in. On the other side, you've really got pretty much Valley, Sioux Cleveland, and Atrisco in. If El Dorado wins out, they can make it in. Unfortunately, they got West Mesa this weekend. They're going to have to get by the best team to have a shot. If they lose this weekend, they're out. And that's a shame because that team started off so hot at 2-0 and really the team to beat. They beat Coach Cherry out of the gate and just had a couple good wins, but they just found themselves in a tough spot here. And, that's football. That's why they play the game. So right now, I think you can't help but think La Cueva is going to be on that side of the bracket by themselves, and unfortunately, Coach Perry and the Rio Rancho East Rams once again are going to have another tough road to make it in. The last couple of years they had to get through La Cueva to make it in and couldn't do it. And this year they got to get through West Mesa. If they win out, and they should, they're going to be on West Mesa's side of the bracket. And unfortunately, they're going to have to get past them to make it to the championship game. How that's all going to shake out, whether La Cueva has enough in the tank to make it back in for their 7th Super Bowl appearance, that would mean they've run the gambit, never been shut out of the Super Bowl, which is just amazing at this level. They would be standing up against the West Mesa Mustangs. I can't see them not making it in this year unless Coach Perry has a way to get by them. You'll probably see a La Cueva West Mesa rematch, and that would be the Super Bowl to be watching. But at this time, with 2 weeks left in the season, West Mesa number 1, La Cueva number 2, and a Rio Rancho East Rams number 3. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week for another 1 through 3 ranked show, New Mexico Young American Football League. Thank you.